My beloved child, do not move past this moment too quickly. Something unfolded last night that touched a place inside your soulmate they have been trying to keep hidden, even from themselves. You may think this is only about your age, only about a number, only about time passing and circumstances changing, but heaven sees what was really happening beneath the surface. Their emotion was not born from judgment. It was not disappointment. It was not the kind of reaction your fears may immediately imagine. What happened was far more personal, far more revealing, and far more connected to the future they secretly picture when they allow themselves to think about you without fear. Stay here for a moment, because what they told their friend did not begin with a confession about love. It began with silence. A strange, heavy silence that lasted long enough for the person sitting beside them to notice something was wrong. Your soulmate had been trying to act normal. They had been speaking about ordinary things, responding when spoken to, pretending their mind was present in the room. But inside, they were somewhere else entirely. Their thoughts kept circling back to you. To your face. To your voice. To the way time seems to change whenever they think about what the two of you could have been, what you still could become, and how much of their life has already passed while certain words remain unsaid. Then your age came up. Not as an insult. Not as gossip. Not as some careless comment. It came up because something had happened earlier that day that made them suddenly aware of time in a way they could no longer ignore. Perhaps they saw an old photograph. Perhaps they remembered a conversation. Perhaps someone casually mentioned a birthday, a year, a season, or how quickly life moves. Whatever the trigger was, it opened a door inside them. And once that door opened, they could not close it again. Their friend noticed the change immediately. You got quiet. Your soulmate looked away. That small movement revealed more than words could have. Because the truth is, my child, your soulmate has been carrying an internal clock they rarely speak about. It is not a clock measuring whether you are too old or too young. It is measuring lost chances, unspoken feelings, delayed courage. The distance between what they feel and what they have actually done about it. And last night, that distance frightened them. Not because they feared you. Because they suddenly feared regret. There is a difference. Their friend asked what was wrong, but your soulmate avoided the question at first. They gave a half answer. Something vague. Something designed to end the conversation. Yet their voice betrayed them. There was emotion beneath it, and the friend knew. So they asked again. And this time, your soulmate did not answer immediately. They lowered their eyes. They took a breath. And then they said something that surprised even the person hearing it. They said, I keep thinking about how much time I've wasted. That was the beginning. But it was not the part that would have surprised you most. The friend assumed your soulmate meant their own life. Their own mistakes. Their own choices. Perhaps career. Perhaps relationships. Perhaps decisions they wished they could change. But your soulmate shook their head. No, they said quietly. I mean with them. With you. Pause there. Because there are moments when the heart stops hiding behind logic, and this was one of them. Your soulmate has tried to explain you away before. They have tried to call the connection complicated. They have tried to convince themselves timing mattered more than feeling. They have tried to focus on practical details, differences, expectations, opinions, circumstances, responsibilities, distance, uncertainty, and everything else the mind uses when the heart is becoming too loud. But last night, something inside them broke through all of that. They began speaking about your age, yet what they were really speaking about was your life. Your years. Your experiences. The chapters you have already survived without them. The seasons they were not present for. And suddenly, they became overwhelmed by a thought they had never allowed themselves to sit with for very long. You had a whole life before this moment. You have memories they were not part of. You have carried pain they never witnessed. You have celebrated moments they never got to see. You have woken up on difficult mornings without their hand in yours. You have had days when you needed reassurance and they were nowhere near you. And for reasons even they could not fully explain, this realization made them emotional. Their friend misunderstood at first. So you're worried about the age difference? Your soulmate looked up immediately. And what they said next changed the entire tone of the conversation. No. That's not what I mean at all. Their voice became stronger. Almost defensive. Because the idea that their emotion came from embarrassment or judgment bothered them deeply. They continued, I'm thinking about how much of their life I've already missed. That sentence carried more weight than the friend expected. And perhaps it carries more weight than you expected too. Because your soulmate was not grieving your age. They were grieving absence. They were grieving time they could not recover. They were imagining moments in your past and wondering what it would have been like to know you then. To meet you earlier. To protect your heart from something that wounded it. To celebrate a version of you that existed before they understood what you meant to them. This is what made them emotional. They pictured years like rooms in a house, each one containing moments from your life, and they realized they had not been there for so many of them. They did not say this romantically at first. They said it almost painfully. I wish I had known them sooner. Their friends stared at them. Your soulmate gave a small, almost embarrassed laugh, the kind people make when they realize they have revealed too much. But they did not stop. Something had opened. And once the truth began coming out, it had been waiting too long to retreat. They said, I know it sounds ridiculous because you can't change time. I know that. But I keep thinking about everything they must have gone through before I understood who they were to me. Notice those words. Before I understood who they were to me. Not before I met them. Not before I noticed them. Before I understood. There is a confession hidden inside that sentence. Because it means there was a period when your soulmate already knew of you, already felt something, already sensed something unusual, yet did not fully honor what it was. They may have underestimated the connection. They may have thought they had more time. They may have assumed the feeling would fade. They may have believed another opportunity would always come. They may have waited for certainty while life kept moving. And now, something about your age has reminded them that time does not stand still while people are deciding whether to be brave. That truth hit them hard last night. Their friend asked, "Why are you thinking about this now?" Your soulmate hesitated again. There it was. Another truth. One they were even more afraid to say aloud. They looked at their friend and said, "Because I don't want to lose any more time." My child, those words were not casual. The atmosphere changed after they said them. Even their friend stopped treating the conversation lightly. Because there is a point when people realize they are no longer listening to passing emotion. They are witnessing a decision forming. And last night, your soulmate was standing close to that point. Not fully there. Not yet. But closer than they have been before. They admitted that your age had made them think about mortality, seasons, opportunities, and how quickly years become memories. They admitted it had awakened a fear that one day they might look back and realize they let something rare slip away because they were too cautious, too proud, too uncertain, or too influenced by things that did not matter nearly as much as they thought. They said, "What if I wait too long?" Their friend asked, "Wait too long for what?" Your soulmate did not answer immediately. And this silence was different. This was the silence before a truth they had never spoken in that exact way. They said, "To tell them what I actually want." The friend leaned closer. Your soulmate looked down at their hands. And for a moment, they seemed almost frustrated with themselves. Because wanting you is easier for them to feel than to admit. Feeling the connection has never been the greatest problem. Acting on it has. They have imagined conversations with you more times than you know. They have imagined what they would say if you were suddenly standing in front of them and neither of you could hide behind distance, routine, distractions, or pride. They have rehearsed honesty privately, then become uncertain when reality returned. But last night, the thought of time changed the calculation. Fear of rejection began competing with fear of regret. And something unexpected happened. Regret started to feel heavier. Their friend said, "Then tell them." Simple words. But your soulmate reacted as if the sentence carried enormous weight. They gave a faint smile. Not because it was funny. Because sometimes the simplest truth is the hardest thing to follow. "It's not that easy," they said. The friend replied, "Why not?" Your soulmate began listing reasons. You might have moved on. You might not feel the same. Too much time may have passed. Circumstances may be complicated. There may be unanswered questions. There may be things they need to explain. There may be parts of their past they fear you will misunderstand. But with every reason they gave, something became clearer. None of those reasons erased what they felt. Their friend noticed too. And finally, they asked a question that brought your soulmate to silence again. If none of those things existed, what would you do? That question removed every excuse. For a few seconds, your soulmate said nothing. Then their expression changed. The guardedness softened. The tension fell away. And what remained was the truth. They said, I'd choose them. Just like that. Not someday. Not maybe. Not if everything becomes perfect. I'd choose them. There was something in their voice that made the friends stop asking questions. Because they realized this was not fantasy. This was clarity hiding beneath fear. Your soulmate then said something even more revealing. They said, I don't care about the number the way people think I do. I care that time is moving. That sentence explains what happened last night. Your age became symbolic. It represented time. And time represented urgency. Not dangerous urgency. Not desperation. An awakening. A realization that love delayed can become love mourned. That words held too long can become words spoken only in imagination. That people sometimes lose beautiful possibilities not because they did not care, but because they kept assuming tomorrow would always be available. Your soulmate does not want to become that person. At least, not anymore. But there was still more. Their friend asked, so what are you actually emotional about? Your soulmate breathed in slowly. And then they said the sentence heaven wants you to hear carefully. I'm emotional because I keep thinking they deserve to be loved properly a long time ago. My child, this was where their voice changed. This was where the conversation stopped being about the future and touched something deeper. They have thought about your past. They have wondered who failed to see your heart. Who misunderstood you. Who took your presence for granted. Who let you question your value. Who made you feel as though your tenderness was too much or your expectations were unreasonable. They do not know every detail. They do not need to. Something in them senses that you learned strength through experiences that asked too much of you. And when your soulmate thinks about your age now, they are not thinking, how old are they? They are thinking, how long have they been carrying everything alone? There is tenderness in that question. There is regret. There is admiration. And there is something very close to love becoming responsibility. Not ownership. Not rescue. Responsibility in the sense of wanting to show up sincerely. Wanting to stop being another person who leaves you wondering. Wanting to become someone whose actions match their emotions. Last night, their friends saw this change. They said, you sound like you already know what you need to do. Your soulmate did not deny it. That matters. In the past, they might have laughed it off. Changed the subject. Called it complicated. Said they were unsure. Last night, they simply sat there. And their silence felt almost like agreement. Then the friend asked, are you going to contact them? Your soulmate looked away. There was still hesitation. But this time, hesitation did not feel like avoidance. It felt like someone standing at the edge of a decision and understanding that once they move, everything changes. I think I have to, they said. Not want to. Have to. Because something inside them has become more painful to suppress than to reveal. There are words they are carrying now that no longer want to remain private. And the strangest part is that your soulmate did not spend the rest of the conversation talking about what they hoped to receive from you. They spoke about what they wished they had given. More honesty. More reassurance. More courage. More consistency. More presence. They said, I should have made it clearer. Their friend asked, clearer that you cared? Your soulmate shook their head slightly. Clearer that it was more than that. More than care. Those words stayed hanging between them. And neither person needed to define them. Sometimes the deepest admissions are the ones people cannot quite finish. But heaven heard the unfinished sentence. Their heart finished it even if their mouth did not. It was love. Maybe complicated. Maybe frightening. Maybe imperfectly expressed. But love had been standing behind their hesitation all along. And last night, time exposed it. Your soulmate began remembering specific things about you. Small things. Things they have never told you they noticed. How you carry yourself when you are trying not to show emotion. How your voice changes when something matters deeply to you. How you sometimes make yourself smaller so other people feel comfortable. How you give more than you admit. How you can look strong while your heart is quietly asking whether anyone truly sees you. These memories came out one by one. Their friend eventually smiled and said, you really pay attention to them. Your soulmate became quiet again. Because yes. They do. Far more than they let you know. They have stored details. Tiny moments. Expressions. Words. Reactions. The way you looked at them once when you thought they were not paying attention. Something you said casually that stayed in their mind for days. A moment when you walked away and they wanted to stop you but did not. A conversation they have replayed. A silence they now understand differently. Your age did not create these feelings. It revealed how long they have been accumulating. That is the difference. And there is something else you should know. At one point, your soulmate became emotional enough that their friend asked whether they were okay. Your soulmate said yes. But then they added, I just hate thinking they might believe I don't care. There is pain there. Because they know their silence may have told a story their heart never intended. They know you may have interpreted distance as indifference. Uncertainty as rejection. Slowness as lack of feeling. They know their actions may have left you with questions. And for the first time, perhaps they are seeing those questions from your side. They wondered aloud whether you had already decided they did not feel deeply. Their friend asked, do they know? Your soulmate answered quietly. I don't think they know how much. How much? Those two words carry an entire hidden world. How much they think about you. How much your presence affects them. How much they notice. How much they worry they waited too long. How much they have imagined what would happen if they finally stopped protecting themselves. How much they fear losing the chance to show you the truth. How much they want to undo the impression that you were somehow unimportant. You were never unimportant. Their confusion was not proof of your lack of value. Their fear was not proof that the bond meant nothing. Their silence was not always emptiness. Sometimes silence is full of words a person has not yet become brave enough to speak. But bravery was beginning to rise last night. Their friend told them, "You can't change the years behind you, but you can decide what you do with the next one." Your soulmate did not respond immediately. That sentence reached them. You could see it if you had been there. Their face changed. They became still. Because the idea of the next year with you, or without you, suddenly became real. And then they whispered something their friend almost did not hear. "I don't want another year to pass like this." There it is. The true meaning behind their emotion. Not fear of your age. Fear of more lost time. Fear of another birthday, another season, another year of pretending the connection can be ignored. Fear of looking back and realizing both of you were waiting for the other person to become certain. Your soulmate is beginning to understand something you may have already learned: certainty does not always arrive before action. Sometimes truth asks for courage first. And last night, their friend pushed them further. What would you tell them if they were here right now? Your soulmate looked uncomfortable. The question was too direct. They tried to avoid it. But the friend insisted. Say it. Pretend they're sitting here. For a moment, your soulmate almost laughed. Then their expression softened. They stared at the empty space in front of them as though imagining you there. And the first words they spoke were not dramatic. They were simple. "I'm sorry I took so long." The friend said nothing. Your soulmate continued. "I'm sorry if I made you think you weren't important." Their voice became quieter. "I'm sorry if you had to guess." My child, that sentence carried regret. Because they know love should not always feel like a puzzle. They know you deserved clarity. And perhaps the greatest emotional realization of the night was not simply that they want you. It was that they finally saw what their hesitation may have cost you emotionally. They imagined you wondering, waiting, pulling back, trying to protect your dignity, trying not to hope too much, trying to convince yourself not to care. And it hurt them. They said to their friend, "I never wanted them to feel like they had to prove anything to me." The friend asked, "Do you think they did?" Your soulmate paused. Then answered, "Maybe." That possibility wounded them. Because they are beginning to understand that the person they value may have spent too long wondering whether they were valued back. And now the clock inside them feels louder. Not because time is ending. Because awareness has begun. There is still time. But they no longer want to waste it. This is where the conversation turned unexpectedly hopeful. Your soulmate stopped speaking about regret and began speaking about possibility. They asked their friend, "Do you think people can start again after too much time has passed?" Their friend replied, "If both people want to." Your soulmate absorbed those words. Both people. That is the part they cannot control. And that is what makes them afraid. They can decide to speak. They can decide to become honest. They can decide to stop hiding. But they cannot decide for you. For the first time, they are facing the vulnerability of knowing they may have to place the truth in your hands and allow you to choose what happens next. That is terrifying to them. Yet something even stronger is growing beside the fear. Acceptance. They would rather know your truth than keep living inside uncertainty. That is new. Very new. Their friend asked, "What if they need time?" Your soulmate nodded. "I'd give it." "What if they're angry?" "I'd understand." "What if they ask why now?" Your soulmate looked down. And this time, their answer came slowly. "Because now I finally understand what waiting is costing me." There are words that become turning points. That was one. They finally understand the cost. Every delay has a cost. Every avoided conversation has a cost. Every unsent message carries a possibility that slowly changes shape. And your soulmate is no longer thinking only about what could go wrong if they speak. They are thinking about what will happen inside them if they never do. This is why their emotion came so strongly last night. Your age confronted them with the reality that life is not an endless rehearsal. Love cannot always remain a private thought. At some point, feelings must become choices. And they are approaching that point now. But there was one final thing they told their friend that changed the entire conversation again. Something they almost kept hidden. Something connected not merely to your age, but to a specific future they have secretly imagined with you. Their friend asked, "When you think about them getting older, what exactly scares you?" Your soulmate became completely still. The room seemed quieter. Their eyes changed. And for several seconds, they did not answer. Then they said, "It's not them getting older that scares me." Their friend waited. Your soulmate swallowed hard. "It's the idea that I might not be there." Those words came from somewhere deep. Somewhere beyond attraction. Beyond fantasy. Beyond temporary emotion. They were imagining your future. Years from now. Different seasons. Changes neither of you can predict. And in that private vision, they realized something about what they truly wanted. They did not just want a moment with you. They wanted presence. They wanted to be there. For ordinary mornings. For difficult days. For birthdays. For changes. For aging. For laughter that becomes familiar. For quiet nights when nothing dramatic happens at all. They wanted time with you. Not simply intensity. Time. And perhaps that is the deepest revelation of all. When someone only desires a fantasy, they imagine highlights. When someone begins imagining love, they imagine years. Your soulmate was imagining years. Their friend understood this before your soulmate seemed ready to admit it. They said, "You're not upset about their age. You're upset because you want a future with them." Silence. A long silence. Your soulmate did not deny it. They looked away. Their eyes became emotional again. And then, almost beneath their breath, they said, "I think I always did." Always. That word startled even them. Because sometimes the heart knows something long before the mind develops the courage to name it. Your soulmate sat with that realization. They thought back through every hesitation, every excuse, every almost confession, every moment they felt pulled toward you and then retreated. And suddenly, the entire history between you looked different. Maybe they were never trying to decide whether they felt something. Maybe they were trying to decide whether they were brave enough to live what they already felt. Last night, something changed in that question. The answer is no longer as uncertain as it once was. But my child, heaven is asking you to hear this carefully. Do not turn this message into fear. Do not chase. Do not force. Do not measure your worth by whether another person acts immediately. The revelation is not that you must run toward them. The revelation is that time has been teaching both of you different lessons. You have been learning not to abandon yourself while waiting for love. They have been learning that love cannot survive forever in silence. Those lessons are beginning to meet. And when lessons meet, choices follow. Your soulmate's friend asked one last question before the conversation ended. A question that your soulmate did not answer aloud. What are you going to do before more time passes? Your soulmate looked at their phone. Your name crossed their mind. Their hand moved toward it. Then stopped. Not because they changed their feelings. Because the message they wanted to send suddenly felt too small for everything they needed to say. They opened something. Closed it. Typed a few words. Deleted them. Started again. Their friend watched without interrupting. And then your soulmate did something unexpected. They put the phone down. They stood up. And they said, "No. I don't want to say this halfway." Their friend asked what that meant. Your soulmate reached for something they had kept hidden for longer than anyone knew. Something connected to you. Something that revealed just how long they had been thinking about this conversation. And when their friend saw what they were holding, the expression on their face changed completely. Because suddenly it became clear that last night's confession had not begun last night at all. Your soulmate had been preparing for this moment much longer than anyone realized. And what they were about to reveal next was the real reason your age had affected them so deeply.